welcome to VVork. Let's create a custom dashboard to use the tags and tag values that we just learned how to create. In the previous video, we saw how to create tags and tag values in VRise operations and how to apply those tag values to objects in our VRise operations inventory. But now comes the exciting part. The whole reason why we're creating that tag and those tag values is because we want to be able to create custom dashboards that are able to zero in on and focus on the exact specific objects that we want the dashboard to look at. As a quick reminder, the tag that we created in the previous video was called SLA, and that was a grouping of 3 different tag values: gold, silver, and bronze. Let's go over into our lab environment and take a look. So as you can see here is the tag SLA and the 3 different tag values: gold, silver, and bronze. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take one quick moment to pause here to point out something perhaps I should have mentioned in the previous video, which is that unlike vSphere, where you can be very specific about which types of objects a label can be applied to, in VRise operations, these labels, the tag values, don't have that same type checking capability. So you do need to be conscious of and careful of which objects you apply your tag values to. Applying a tag value to the wrong object is not going to break the object, but it's going to in effect break the filtering that you're trying to do with the tag value. Okay, so we're just about to create a dashboard, but real quick here, let's take a look at the alert section. In the alert section, as you can see, I have a whole bunch of different alerts triggering. Different severity alerts, different alerts, alerts on different objects, and so forth. And ultimately what I want to do is have a dashboard that's going to allow me to focus just on the gold SLA hosts in my environment. Obviously, if they're gold, they're the ones I want to pay the most attention to. Now I can do that using one of the tag values that I've already set up. So let's go over to the dashboard section. And as you can see, I've actually already created the bare bones of a dashboard called host CPU usage. And what it's showing me right now with these metric spark lines and the numerical values is for each of these different hosts, each line is showing us how busy each host's CPUs are. If I recall correctly, each host has 2 CPUs in my small environment. And currently, if we look closely here in this illustration, if you look at the entries that have the numbers highlighted in red, you can see that hosts 1, 3, and 4 are highlighted in red because in my environment that's too high of CPU usage. So what I'm going to do here is edit this dashboard a bit by going to the dashboard, which I've already done, and choosing Actions, Edit Dashboard. And before we actually make use of the tag values that we've created, I want to show you how you can do some filtering in a dashboard without using tagging. I'm going to do that so that you know how to do it, but more importantly to show you what some of the drawbacks are of this first approach. So I'm not using tagging yet. Instead, what I'm going to do is go to this first widget in my dashboard. I'm going to edit it by clicking on the edit button. And in this particular widget, I can configure how it behaves. For instance, you may have noticed that I have it set up to refresh every 30 seconds. Now, in the case of this particular widget, you'll recall it was displaying 4 different hosts: ESXi 01, 2, 3, and 4, in that order. This particular widget allows me to pick those hosts and assign them in the order that I want. To illustrate how I did that, I've already done that with the first 4 hosts, but I'm going to add in my 5th host. Now my 5th host is somewhere in this list here, but I don't want to go searching through the potentially thousands or tens of thousands of objects. So I'm going to use one of VMware's automatically created tags, the object types tag. And you'll recall that one of the object types tag was called host system. Earlier, I found the hosts that I was looking for by searching for them by name, but hosts are automatically tagged with the tag value of host system. So I can just click on host system and notice I can see all 5 of my hosts. Now to set up this particular widget so that it displays CPU usage on this host too, I'm going to double click that host. Over on the right side, I now have a collection of all the different metrics, supermetrics, and properties of each for this particular host. But the metric I'm looking for is a CPU metric. So I select CPU, and the one I'm looking for is usage. If I select that, host 5 CPU usage percentage metric has now been added to my list of hosts. These are the hosts that are actually going to be displayed. So I had already added in host 1, already added in host 2, and host 3. But if we scroll down a bit further, we see host 4 and host 5, which I just added. Again, I did that without using the tag and tag values that we set up in the previous video. Instead, I'm just using VMware's tag and tag values. If we look at the effect of this change, you'll notice that my widget now, my dashboard, this widget in the dashboard now shows me hosts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So sometimes you will configure the widgets in your dashboard to display specific objects. In this case, it wasn't that hard to do because I only had 5 different hosts, and furthermore, I was only creating one dashboard. But what if I had 100 hosts or 1,000 hosts? And what if instead of creating one dashboard, I was creating 10 or 20 dashboards that all need to display these 5 hosts? Well, I could do that using the technique I just showed you, leveraging VMware's tags. But what I want to do in the next part of this dashboard is to quickly and easily have another widget that's just going to show me the alerts for my gold SLA host. You'll recall that's host number 1. So I'm going to do that, but let's see here. If I go down to the bottom here, you can see a collection of 40 plus different widgets that we could add to our dashboard. So up here, this is my dashboard. These are the widgets that I can add. I'm going to search for a widget called the alert list. And I'm going to drag it into my dashboard. There we go. So I drag it in. I don't plan on adding any new widgets for a while, so I'll minimize that section, and I'm going to increase the size of the alert list widget. Now you'll notice the alert list is showing me information about alerts that have occurred over a period of time, and it's lumped them together into a section of alerts that occurred today as opposed to last week and so forth. Now for our purposes here, I just want to see a list of these alerts. So I'm going to click on this eyeball icon to show the toolbar. There's the toolbar. And instead of grouping them by time, I'm going to choose not to group them at all. You'll notice you have other choices here for this widget, but I'm going to choose not to group them at all. So now I have that overwhelming list of alerts that I showed you briefly before. In fact, there's 52 alerts. But I don't want to see all of these alerts. For instance, I don't want to, in this dashboard, I don't want to display the vCenter alert because I'm not interested in, my job is to make certain that we meet the SLAs for our host. So I don't want to see this vCenter alert in this case here. And although SA-ESXi04 and 03 are hosts, I don't want them to show up in this list here because for my job, I'm primarily responsible to keep the gold SLA hosts up. These are not gold SLA hosts. You'll recall these were either silver or bronze. So what I'm going to do first of all is I want to set up this alert list so that it filters out anything except for hosts. Again, we'll do that by editing this widget. And you'll notice that when we edit this widget, it has some similar options. For instance, I can set its title. Ultimately here, this is going to be a list of the gold SLA hosts. So I'm going to change the title to indicate what we're ultimately striving to do with this widget in the dashboard. We're not going to achieve that effect immediately. We're going to work our way there, but that's what I want this second widget to display, is the alerts for all the gold SLA hosts. So in this particular widget, if I wanted to just focus on one host, such as host 3, I could select host 3, scroll down, click Save, and you'll notice that my list of alerts right now is only showing me alerts for host 03. It's also showing me this other alert for a data store that's related to that host. We're going to see how to filter that out too, but I have in effect filtered out everything except for alerts on host 03. Now, the thing that you might expect to be able to do, given what we saw in the previous widget, you might expect to be able to say, well, I don't just want, let me clear all these. You might be thinking I could select host 3 and host 2 and host 1. Wait a second, just unselect it. This particular widget, for whatever reason, does not allow you to do a multi-select. If I select them one at a time, it just clears the previous selection. If I shift-click select, it selects one item. If I control-click, it just selects one item. So unlike the previous widget, this widget does not allow me to pick objects that way. But instead of picking by objects, instead of going by object, let's collapse objects and notice that there's this section called Tag Picker. You'll recall that we created a tag. Let me scroll down a bit here. We created a tag called SLA. There it is. And let me scroll again. If we expand SLA, we see our 3 different tag values that we created. And if I were to select just gold, so for instance, if my job depends upon me keeping those gold hosts, in this case 1 gold host, up and running, I could select the tag value called gold, scroll down a bit further, click Save, and you'll notice now all the alerts that I'm seeing are for just host SA-ESXi-01, which is exactly what we were striving to do. So there you have it. In the previous video, you saw how to create tags and tag values, and now in this video, I've shown you how you can actually use the tag values that we've created to create a custom dashboard to make use of what we've created. Now, there's much more that you can do with these tags and tag values, and there's much more that you can learn about creating custom dashboards. If you haven't already taken a look, take a look in the info thingy up above. If you click there, you'll see information about training where you can learn more about not just tags and tag values, but how to create custom dashboards and those different widgets and so forth. So some great training available for you, but that'll be a wrap for this particular video in which we showed you one demonstration of how to use tags and tag values that you've created in VVork operations. Join me in the next video where you'll see another demonstration of how to create tags and tag values in VVork operations.